Welcome back to my channel. My name is PrachiSharma, and in today's session we'll be working on the most important questions of the chapter Sulphuric Acid. I completely understand that this is a very difficult time for you and you're going through a lot of stress right now because of course board examinations are going on, and majority of the students I have found so far, they are always stressed about this subject chemistry altogether. So my suggestion to you is that if you focus on and stick to a format, that is, do mind mapping of the chapter. What is mind mapping? It is a very shorter version of revising a particular chapter, that is just in 20 minutes or maximum 30 minutes if it's a long chapter. So if you're getting stuck with any chapter, make sure that you do the mind mapping video first. Then you do the important question videos. And of course, there is an entire test series of all the chapters step by step. So if you stick to a process, that is mind mapping, important board questions, then the test paper, this process will definitely help you understand the content and of course learn how to apply your knowledge. That means if you have learned some content, how will you utilize that knowledge in answering the questions, and how you can improve the way you answer your questions. So make sure that you check out the channel and of course share the channel with your friends to help them improve for this particular examination. And don't be scared, and let me know if you have any doubts and queries. So without wasting any more time, let's get started with today's session. Alright students, let's get started with this session. So the first question that we have, one important thing is that in sulfuric acid specifically, you get this type of question a lot, and many times this type of question we have seen that this type of question is repeated a lot. What is this question? In this case, that they will give you an equation and they will ask you what kind of property is sulfuric acid showing in this equation. So it could be that it is a typical dilute acid, it could be it is acting as a dehydrating agent, oxidizing agent, non-volatile acid. So whatever properties of sulfuric acid you have studied, those properties will be applied. So for sulfuric acid chapter specifically, this type of question is repeated a lot. So make sure that you understand the properties well and understand how to answer these questions. So let's get started with the first question. Some properties of sulfuric acid are listed below. Choose the role played by sulfuric acid as A, B, C or D, which is responsible for the reactions 1st to 5th. Some roles or role may be repeated. Dilute acid, dehydrating agent, non-volatile acid and oxidizing agent. Another thing I'm mentioning again, I have mentioned this in a lot of videos, that is, make sure that you read the entire question and understand the instructions given in the question. Sometimes they will say that whatever changes you are making, underline those changes. Sometimes they will say that okay, a few answers will be repeated. Sometimes they will say do not copy the question. So make sure that you read the entire question properly and follow those instructions thoroughly. If you fail to do so, you will lose marks. So make sure that you follow the instructions properly. Let's start with the first part. In the first part, you have CuSO4.5H2O and you're getting CuSO4 and water separately. This means in this case, water is taken out from the compound. This means sulfuric acid is acting as a dehydrating agent. So the answer for the first one is B. Then the next is S plus H2SO4, and that is giving you SO2 plus water. In this case, if you see, it is oxidizing it. So oxidizing agent. The answer for second is D. Now the next is NaNO3 plus H2SO4, and you're getting nitric acid in the production, in the products. So when you have any other acid being formed from sulfuric acid, that nature is non-volatile acid. So that is non-volatile acid. Third is C. Next is MgO plus H2SO4 gives you MgSO4 plus H2O. So in that case, it is a typical acid property. That means you have MgO reacting with an acid giving you salt plus water. So typical acid property. So the answer is A. Next is Zn plus H2SO4 gives ZnSO4 plus SO2 plus water. In this case, it is an oxidizing property of sulfuric acid. So the answer is D. Let's move to the next question. What do you observe when sugar crystals are added to a hard glass test tube? So what happens is sugar chars to give us a black porous substance or a black porous mass. So that is what happens if you have sugar and you add sulfuric acid to it. Let's move to the next question. Write the equation for each of the following cases. Sulfur is heated with concentrated sulfuric acid. So when you have sulfur, let me write the equation. When you have sulfur, so S plus H2SO4, that gives us water plus SO2. Next is concentrated sulfuric acid is poured over sugar. So what is sugar? Sugar is C12, H22O11 plus H2SO4. That gives you 12C plus it can give you 11H2O dot H2SO4. This is a combined compound. So this will come out. Next is magnesium sulfate solution is mixed with barium chloride solution. So magnesium sulfate is MgSO4 plus barium chloride is BaCl2, which will give you BaSO4 plus MgCl2. That's it. Let's move to the next question. Now see, similar type of question is repeated again. That means they have given you the properties, then they have given you the equations and you have to match. So the first is you have sugar and you are adding H2SO4 to it. So this property is a typical dehydrating property. So the answer for the first one is B, dehydrating. The next is NaCl plus H2SO4. So that is, and you're getting HCl in the output. So as I mentioned, if you get an acid in the product section and you are reacting H2SO4, that means it's a non-volatile nature. So answer for this is C. Now the next is CuO plus H2SO4 giving you CuSO4 plus H2O. So again, you are getting salt plus water. So this is a typical acid property. So the answer is A. Next is Na2CO3 plus H2SO4, and that gives you Na2SO4 plus water plus carbon dioxide. This is also a typical acid property. A. Let's move to the next part. HCl plus HNO3, HNO3 and H2SO4 are the formulae of three compounds. Which of these compounds has the highest boiling point and which has the lowest? So sulfuric acid has the highest boiling point and HCl, that is hydrochloric acid, has the lowest boiling point. Let's move to the next part. Dilute hydrochloric acid and dilute sulfuric acid are both colorless solutions. How will the addition of barium chloride solution to each help distinguish between the two? So what happens is when you have, this is a test of sulfuric acid by the way, that what happens is when you add barium chloride to sulfuric acid, you get a white PPT which is insoluble in mineral acids, and this PPT is of BaSO4, that is barium sulfate. So this is how you will identify that it is sulfuric acid. Whereas if we talk about hydrochloric acid, barium chloride does not show any reaction with HCl, that is hydrochloric acid. Let's move to the next part. Next question. Question 6. Which property of sulfuric acid accounts for its use as a dehydrating agent? So that is because concentrated sulfuric acid has great affinity for water, therefore it is used as a dehydrating agent. Let's move to the next question. Give reasons for the following. Carbon dioxide and sulfur dioxide cannot be distinguished by using lime water. The main reason is because both of them will turn lime water milky. Therefore, we cannot distinguish between carbon dioxide and sulfur dioxide by using lime water. Let's move to the next question. Question number 8. Again, similar question is repeated, different year. Okay. So A, B, C, D summarize the properties. You have dilute acid, non-volatile, XYZ. Now the first is preparation of hydrogen chloride. Whenever you have preparation of hydrogen chloride or nitric acid, in that case the answer will always be non-volatile acid. So answer for first is B. Now the next part says preparation of ethene from ethanol. This is a dehydrating property. Of course, this is not in the syllabus this year, but this is dehydrating property, that is D. Preparation of copper sulfate from copper oxide. This is a typical acid property, that means A. Let's move to the next question. The following statement is correct only under certain conditions. Rewrite the statement including the appropriate conditions underlined in your answer. So make sure that you read the question properly. Underline the changes that you are making. If you are adding or subtracting anything, make sure you underline that area. So the answer for this will be oxalic acid reacts with sulfuric acid to produce carbon monoxide and carbon dioxide. So this is wrong because it is not just sulfuric acid, it is concentrated sulfuric acid. So oxalic acid reacts with concentrated sulfuric acid to produce carbon monoxide and carbon dioxide. So let's move ahead to the next question. Name the following. A neutral oxide of carbon. When formic acid reacts with concentrated sulfuric acid, the answer will be carbon monoxide. So carbon monoxide. Next is acidic gas which cannot be dried by passing through concentrated sulfuric acid. The answer is hydrogen sulfide. Hydrogen sulfide. Catalyst used during contact process is vanadium pentoxide. Basicity of sulfuric acid is 2, or you can say it is diabasic. Next is normal salt and acid salt of sulfuric acid. So those will be sulfate and bisulfates. Gas obtained by dehydration of ethanol is ethylene or ethene. It's not in the syllabus, you can leave that. A black colored substance formed when sugar is dehydrated, that is known as sugar charcoal. Next is an organic acid which on reaction with concentrated sulfuric acid produces 2 oxides of carbon, that is oxalic acid. Let's move to the next one. Green colored compound formed when SO2 is passed through acidified potassium dichromate is chromium sulfate. Chromium sulfate. Let's move to the next part. Next question. Question 11. In what capacity of sulfuric acid and... Okay, again, it is the same type of question. In this case, they have given you the reaction. They have just named the reaction and you're supposed to give the property for it. For example, for the first one, if we start, reaction of concentrated sulfuric acid with rock salt to prepare HCl. Preparing HCl, that means non-volatile. Next is reaction of concentrated sulfuric acid with formic acid to produce carbon monoxide. This is dehydrating. Next is concentrated reaction of dilute sulfuric acid with active metal. This is a typical acid property. Typical acid. Next is hydrogen sulfide passed through sulfuric acid to produce sulfur. So in this case, what is happening? Oxidizing is happening. So oxidizing agent. Then moist sulfur dioxide is passed through concentrated sulfuric acid. We are drying it. So dehydrating, or you can say it is acting as a drying agent. Sulfuric acid is acting as a drying agent. Next is concentrated sulfuric acid reacts with zinc to liberate sulfur dioxide. This is again oxidizing. So oxidizing property. Let's move to the next question. Question number 12. Give one equation each to show the following properties of sulfuric acid. So I am hoping that you can write this answer on your own by now, because we have covered up questions in which equations were also mentioned. So the first is dehydrating property. You can pick up the sugar example, that you take sugar, combine it with H2SO4 and you give the products. Now acidic nature, you can give any equation in which you have acid plus alkali giving you salt plus water, neutralization reaction. You can pick up anything. Now as a non-volatile acid, for a non-volatile acid you can pick up any lab preparation for nitric acid or HCl. Both of them will be valid for non-volatile acid. Let's move to the next question. Question number 13. If you see, it is again a similar type of question and a different year. You have typical acid property. Now let's look at the question. Preparation of hydrogen chloride gas, non-volatile acid. Next is preparation of copper sulfate from copper oxide is typical acid property. Action of concentrated sulfuric acid to form sulfur is oxidizing agent. Okay students, I hope this type of question is getting pretty easy for you. Now next is, with the help of equations, give an outline for the manufacture of sulfuric acid by contact process. So let's quickly write those equations. So the first step will be that you have sulfur and that is converting to sulfur dioxide. So S plus O2 giving you SO2. Then you'll have, this is the first step. In the second step you'll have SO2 reacted. This is happening in the catalytic chamber. SO2, you are adding oxygen to it in the presence of vanadium pentoxide V2O5 at 450 degrees Celsius, and you get SO3. The third step will be SO3 and you add H2SO4 to that and you get H2S2O7. In H2S2O7 you add water and you end up getting H2SO4. And that's it. But students, when you're writing this in the exam, please write it properly. I have only written the equations, but you write it properly as to what is the name of the step also. So make sure that you're writing it properly. Let's move to the next part. Identify the substance. Gas has an offensive smell like rotten egg. That is hydrogen sulfide gas. Let's move to the next question. Write the equation for the following reactions: dilute sulfuric acid and sodium sulfite. So let's write that. Sodium sulfite is Na2S and that is reacting with H2SO4 will give you Na2SO4 plus H2S. Let's move to the next question. Copy and complete the following table relating to important industrial process. Output refers to the product of the process, not the intermediate steps. Name the process: contact process. Inputs is sulfur dioxide and oxygen. Catalyst is vanadium pentoxide. Equation for the catalyzed reaction. So the equation you can write is SO2 plus O2 V2O5 450 degrees Celsius giving you SO3. Output is sulfuric acid. Let's move to the next question. Name the process used for the large-scale manufacture of sulfuric acid. This name is contact process. Name two acids other than sulfuric acid which can be prepared by using sulfuric acid. The answer will be nitric acid or hydrochloric acid. In using sulfuric acid to prepare the acids as mentioned in part A, which property of sulfuric acid is used? Non-volatile property of sulfuric acid is used. C. Sulfuric acid can be used to prepare number of gases in the lab. Write balanced equations for the reactions in which the following gases are obtained using dilute sulfuric acid as one of the reactants. So you need to form hydrogen. So let me explain you the question. They are saying you are reacting something will dilute H2SO4. You are getting hydrogen as the gas, so you have to figure out the other things. Similarly, H2SO4 dilute, you are getting carbon dioxide, and similarly H2SO4 dilute and you are getting SO2, that is sulfur dioxide. So you can pick up any of the examples. You have n number of examples. So for example, let's say for the first one you reacted with magnesium as simple as possible. So magnesium plus H2SO4 gives MgSO4 plus H2. Then for the next one you need carbon dioxide. So you need to react with any carbonate. For example, sodium carbonate. It is easy to make. So Na2CO3 plus H2SO4 will give you Na2SO4 plus carbon dioxide plus water. Now for SO2 also you will definitely get water. What you can use is, you can use Na2SO3 plus H2SO4 giving you Na2SO4 plus SO2 plus H2O. That's it. Let's move to the next question. Choosing the substances from the list given below, write balanced chemical equation to form the following salts. Okay students, this is an interesting question. Let me explain you what is happening. You're supposed to form these salts in equations by using these compounds given to you. So compounds are given to you over here. Using in XYZ any format, you're supposed to make these 4 salts. Okay, so let's start with the first one. We are looking for sodium sulfate. So sodium sulfate is Na2SO4. So we are looking for sodium sulfate. What all do we have here? You have dilute sulfuric acid, copper, iron, then you have certain XYZ things. So what you can do is, you can use dilute sulfuric acid, react it with a carbonate. So you end up getting carbon dioxide and water. Along with that you get a sulfate. So let's try that. So you get carbon dioxide plus water according to let me just write it properly. So we are getting Na2SO4 plus carbon dioxide plus water. What I'm asking you to react it with dilute H2SO4 and a carbonate. What carbonate is given? Copper carbonate. So either you can't use copper carbonate, you need to use sodium carbonate. Do we have sodium carbonate here? Oh yes, we have sodium carbonate here. So we use that. So Na2CO3. So you have sodium carbonate reacting with dilute H2SO4 giving you Na2SO4 plus carbon dioxide plus water. And this is your, sorry not this one, this is your required output product. The next asked is zinc carbonate. So zinc carbonate is ZnCO3. So again you can do the same thing. Let's see what you have. You have zinc nitrate and you have sodium carbonate. So we can use those two things. So zinc carbonate and zinc nitrate and sodium carbonate. So let's do that. So zinc nitrate plus sodium carbonate. And when we combine these, you get zinc carbonate. Along with that, you get NaNO3. That is sodium nitrate. And that's it. Let's move to the next one, copper sulfate. So you're looking for CuSO4. So let's come back here. So copper carbonate you have. So you can simply use that. Copper carbonate react with sulfuric acid. It's easy. So copper carbonate. CO3 plus H2SO4 gives you CuSO4 plus H2O plus carbon dioxide. That's it. Now next is iron sulfate. So for making iron sulfate, what all do you need? You need iron. Of course you have iron here. You use iron and dilute sulfuric acid. This will give you iron sulfate plus hydrogen. So this should work. So let's say iron plus H2SO4 dilute. This will give you iron sulfate. So FeSO4 plus hydrogen gas. And that's it. Alright students, so this is it for today's session. This is part 1 of important questions of sulfuric acid. By looking at the entire video, I hope you have understood how much important the properties of sulfuric acid are. So make sure that you understand the properties and of course understand how the examples are working. So this is it for today. Make sure that you share, like and of course subscribe. For any doubts and queries, don't forget to leave a comment in the comment box. Thank you so much and we'll catch up in part 2 of sulfuric acid important questions.